Welcome, welcome. This is State of NativeWind. I'm Dan. I'm a maintainer of NativeWind.
And I'm Mark, the creator of NativeWinds.
Yeah.
And we've got a whole bunch of different topics to talk about today, and we haven't prepared for any of these. So we're going to be ad hocing.
Very, very ad hoc agenda.
Very
but we'll try to
things.
keep it succinct. Starting with a fairly large announcement that I will let Mark lead with.
Oh, I'm going to actually just cap over a couple of things I want to talk about today.
Yeah.
So we've got the preview release that I want to talk about. I want to talk about colors and color spaces in React Native, which is an interesting topic that no one talks about. Performance and kind of like the shadow tree and some sort of fun adventures that I've been on there. And we probably run out of time. I'll cap at those things. Cool. I guess the big thing we'll talk about first is the preview release, which is now on NPM. Finally, yay!
Huzzah.
Huzzah.
For all those asking when it would land, it has landed.
It's landed, but the documentation hasn't landed. But
no, but we can merge that PR. I think the only thing that we have to make sure of is when you're installing it, right, that the instructions have the relevant like at whatever the version release is, right? So because otherwise it'll just go to install 4.1.21.
Yes, you have to just update the version numbers in there. What I might also do, I wonder if maybe I'll actually go through the new setup on stream for people. Let's see if this actually goes through.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can just kind of merge it and then change it as it goes, right? Like throughout the day, because I'm going to be spending all day basically on things pertaining to this, regardless.
Okay, let me try something. I love it when you try things on a stream for the very first
a live
time.
demo, not just a live demo, but like a stream.
Okay. Can I share a window?
You get over there.
Alrighty. Can you see my VS Code? Is that working?
I can't. No. Oh, I have to add it to the stream. Here we go.
Add to the stream.
It's quite small. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, okay. So this might be a limiting factor with StreamYard. I can make things big. How's that for size?
This is the weirdest code editor setup I have ever seen, but I think you can stand to make your terminal a little smaller, I think.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. So what I have here is just a blank Expo app. This is just if you did something like npx create expo template blank. It's the completely blank example. And so the new setup that we're doing is very similar to actually using the Tailwind CSS installation guide if you're using their post CSS one, which is meant to be like their sort of their framework guide. Hopefully, eventually we can actually be included in the framework guides here. But for now, it's just the generalized using post CSS. So obviously the first step is to install the packages because this is an Expo project. We might actually have this here. I'll just add worklet on. So let's just break down these packages. So you're going to install Tailwind CSS, that's the same. Tailwind CSS post CSS, that's the same. You need this new package, React Native CSS. This kind of provides the magic to make everything work. The NativeWind preview. And then I'm also adding in Reanimated and the React Native Worklet package.
And that's going to be version 4 of Reanimated now.
That's version 4 of Reanimated. Well, yes, I'm using the latest Expo SDK. It's the version supported by the SDK. So then the next step in the setup is to create a post CSS config file. So post CSS config.mjs. Copy paste that into here. Okay, copy paste out of his browser. Doesn't work.
Oh, why don't you? The copy paste button or the clipboard button doesn't work.
The clipboard button, but I was hoping to just copy paste from there.
Oh, that's devastating.
I can actually use my my actual browser to grab it. Okay, then you need to create a CSS file and import your CSS. So let's just create our global.css file. And you go like import Tailwind CSS, and you can also now import the NativeWind theme. So basically the same, just an extra step there. They recommend starting your build process. I'm going to just skip that step for a moment. Then the next step is to actually add your style sheet into your application and start adding class names. So you can go to our app.tsx and just go import our global.css file. Now we have one extra step after this. So at the moment, we've been following all the exact same instructions as the Tailwind framework. The last final step that we require is just a change to your Metro configuration. So let's just create a Metro file. We're going to use npx expo customize your Metro config. That will generate me a Metro file quickly. With native winds. And just wrap your config in that.
Same as usual.
Right. Yes, but now you no longer have to specify the import sources. Right. So it has no options, and that's what you need to do. And in terms of setup, that's now complete. There's no Babel config or other things that you need to do anymore. We're basically exactly the same as the Tailwind CSS setup, maybe with some extra lines for things. And then the only step we now add is this Metro config. All right.
So simpler setup.
Much simpler setup, yes.
Yeah. I think that this will be especially felt with folks who are trying to do like more complex implementations, because I think a lot of the help I've been providing folks over the last several weeks, even some of the folks who understand the nuances of NativeWind is like messing with Metro, making sure that it knows what to do, where to look for things.
So I haven't actually tried this in Radon IDE, so hopefully.
I recently had a little Twitter thing. I uninstalled Radon finally because it creates files in my cursor editor without my permission by default. So I was just like, I don't want any of that. You're gone.
So you should automatically, if you're using TypeScript, have the class name property added in. That's got automatic TypeScript setup for you. That should be all set up. So you should be fine to just take your existing app and just go class name and do something like text blue. And let's get much larger text. There we go. That's all it takes now. Oh, we had a crash from Reanimated. Okay. I should have specified the version of worklets that I needed installed. Sorry, that was me setting up my Expo project incorrectly and not.
Which again, we'll update the installation docs on the V5 side to like make sure that the worklets version is correct.
Is it
Is it
worklets? Did
worklets?
I?
Yeah, it's worklets. Did you
It's
put in worklet?
worklets. I must have just typed in the wrong package.
Oh my
Let me
god.
just fix that up. And then if I rebuild the app, it should work. Oh man, live demos. You always screw something up.
Hey man.
Yep, that's the
Why
new
is
setup.
there's still a blue
Nice
line
and
under
easy.
worklets? Is that
That's so I have terrible spelling, and so I'm one of those crazy people that uses a spell checker in their coding editor.
oh god.
I know.
That is actually the
Yeah,
one thing I've noticed like stepping into working on NativeWind immediately. I was just like, wow, Mark is really bad at spelling, like properly
yeah.
bad at spelling.
All right, then we have proper reanimated support animations. No, we still got
Allegedly. I think the spelling
version
was right this time
mismatch.
though. I want to
Yeah.
say the
Anyway,
spelling was right.
React Native worklets. Yes. Don't know why that didn't rebuild with the correct dependencies. But anyway, if I did actually do that properly, it would work. I'm going to stop doing the reanimated stuff until I work out how to rebuild Raiden properly.
Yeah.
But yeah, essentially that's it. And it should work pretty good, as fast as before. There are some things that have changed. So we no longer have the CLS interrupt function and the remap props. They have just been merged into one styled function, which people should be using. However, use of that, like we still kind of recommend just using the primitives and not actually using those sort of functions unless you really need to on a native component. Like ideally, you should be working with the primitive versions themselves.
Yeah.
The other
So
thing
I just want to go
do
ahead.
want to call out quickly is we do have some new options on here, and this is something that a lot of people have kind of asked for. Is you can now actually turn off the global class name polyfill. And when you do this, now if I restart this app, I'd have to rebuild in Raiden. These are just your normal text and view from React Native. Like they will no longer work with the class name. Instead, you'll have to import text
From NativeWind.
From React
Or
Native CSS.
yeah, I should say CSS.
Components.
Yes.
Yeah. Or you can get it from the directly from there. So if you don't want to use this automatic transform that we have, so you only want it on certain components, you can just turn it off globally and go from there. It's just basically the same as before, as not using the Babel plugin.
And why might folks want to do that?
Maybe for some reason they have some incompatibility with it, or they don't trust the global polyfill. Some people like to have control, and they don't like it when the bundler does magic behind the scenes. They want to be able to like correctly map thing. One of the things that polyfill does is it does ruin your source maps. So, like for example, if I go to the definition of text, it's going to take me to the native text. It won't actually take me to the polyfill version. Mm-hmm. And some people might want that when they're in their debugging to be able to go through that. You will only ruin the source maps inside your editor, though. If you are actually using the dev tools and stepping through code in the Chrome dev tools of an actual running app, it will properly go through your source maps that way. But I know a lot of people are still getting used to those dev tools. So yeah, just want to throw it out there as a different way.
Yeah, so I wanted to clarify something. This somewhat segues into what I was going to bring up, which is it's a weird time where a lot of things are being shipped at the same time, right? You obviously have version 5 of NativeWind, you have SDK 54 from Expo, and everyone's still getting used to Liquid Glass.
Yes.
And this has created sort of an unprecedented situation with like what becomes your latest thing that actually like is installed by default versus what might be a canary release, right? And so on the NativeWind front, it's important to clarify this is not the latest version right now.
Yes.
This is you have to explicitly, this is like a preview. So you have to explicitly go to install that. Subsequently, what I'm working on today is getting RNU, like Create Expo Stack, to still have SDK 53 by default. You can opt into using 54. Similarly, you'll opt into version 5 as a canary, but the default will still be, if you're using the latest version of RNU or Create Expo Stack, you're still going to be using version 4 of NativeWind. Um, yeah, so I just wanted to clarify that that's sort of the stance that we're moving forward on. Eventually, obviously, version 5 of NativeWind will be made the default, and that'll just be what, installing NativeWind will be like. But we just want to kind of work through some of the stuff here that potentially might cause some problems. Um, yeah, there's just a lot of stuff happening right now simultaneously, and it's actually kind of weird to try to track down which specific thing is causing the problem. So
There's even more problems behind the scenes as well. Internally within React Native and how Expo work, there's been a lot of changes, especially with Metro. This SDK version has a new Metro resolver, which caused a couple of issues. React Native changed the way it does its exports, which is kind of fun. Yeah, just a lot of things always change, and what looks simple can be sometimes pretty complex behind the scenes there.
yeah. Mohammed is asking a question regarding whether we had a chance to talk to the T3 Turbo guys, Julius and them, because they allegedly are aiming to remove NativeWind and use only React Native CSS, which that's not a problem at all. Like NativeWind itself is just a plugin. It's not doing all that much anymore. So React Native CSS is largely what we'll see the
Yeah,
bulk of the changes moving forward. So if they have a specific way that they want to handle that, 100%. And frankly, we see most of the issues and PRs and stuff moving into React Native CSS over the next like month or two and moving forward. So not a problem at all. Glad to see they're
yeah,
taking
that's
that
kind of
initiative.
how we intend for people, all frameworks and libraries, to be using it. Is React Native CSS is the baseline of what they should be setting up, and then NativeWind is just a theming on top of Tailwind CSS. And even then, Tailwind CSS is just an optional thing that you've installed via Post CSS. It's the same how frameworks like the web frameworks, they don't support just Tailwind. It's CSS in general. That's kind of what we want to see for React Native. And then you choose whether you want it to be like Tailwind CSS or Panda CSS or any of the other libraries out there. Ideally, like one day we'd like to branch out and support all of them. This could be a couple of changing times.
We'll just say
Yeah,
if
I'll
you're
have to
using
keep.
NativeWind, you want to continue using NativeWind. There's no problem there. That's
Oh yeah,
still going to
no problem there.
continue.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just important to understand that the layer of what NativeWind itself actually handles now is much thinner relative to something like React Native CSS.
and much more well defined as well.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'll have to check out that PR. I wonder if Julius is it Julius who used to run TC Turbo? Have you still
I think he
in
still
charge of
runs it.
that? All right, cool.
One of the guys who works on the project, specifically the Expo part, jumps into the Ronin Discord every once in a while, so maybe he might know more. But
Yep,
either way,
cool.
we can get in touch. As far as the question of when version 5 will be like the proper, like done version.
When people stop
Yeah,
reporting
it's
some
just
issues, like when
yeah,
we know.
it's kind of when the vibe feels good that it's like good and ready. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
but
not
at
like
the
a
end of the
fixed.
day, like these are all just version numbers as well. Like if you want to use it, try it. If you like it, if it works for you, keep at it. Like if not, then wait. Um, I would only recommend upgrading if it's like you're willing to be on the bleeding edge or to be in the previews. Often with software that people say like wait a month or two for the
Yep.
actual release before testing it if it's like a commercial application or business critical. But if it's just a hobby project, sure,
Yeah.
upgrade, see how you go from there.
And that was the whole thing that I was alluding to with, SDK 54 and Liquid Glass and now version 5. Like, don't change to all of these things expecting them to work. My personal rule of thumb is wait for the point one release. Like, even though I work on native feeling stuff, like I still don't run Liquid Glass on my primary device. I probably won't for a while. Definitely not till a point one version of the operating system is installed. I also don't run Expo SDK 54. Similar kind of pattern. If you're concerned about implementing this in your like production, your work application, maybe hold off. But like Mark said, that side project could play around with it there and familiarize with kind of what the new setup is like.
There was a question in the chat there about
Mm-hmm.
what's the difference between NativeWind and React Native CSS. This is something we're going to have to clarify in the documentation. So the difference is you don't lose any functionality from using React Native CSS directly. What you lose is the ability to use the Tailwind class names. So React Native CSS is just for pure CSS, as in you have a CSS file and you want to write a class name and your rules in pure CSS and link it that way. That's how it works. It has no notion of Tailwind or this class name mapping. NativeWind adds that extra class name support. So if you just used React Native CSS with Tailwind, that will work fine. You'll get all the Tailwind classes and things like that. But NativeWind adds some extra classes that make sense for native. These are things like the platform modifiers. Tailwind doesn't have an iOS only modifier out of the box, but NativeWind adds that extra modifier to Tailwind for this native sort of things. Or another example would be like the Android Ripple classes. They're not going to exist in base Tailwind. NativeWind adds those extra class names on. You could choose to actually just use React Native CSS in Tailwind and then write your own manual classes for that functionality. But that's all what NativeWind now does. It's just a plugin for Tailwind to provide that class name mapping. There's no sort of functionality loss. It's just a convenience plugin.
So would a simple way to view it be, or maybe an easier way to view it is React Native styling functions different than CSS. React Native CSS aims to address that. And then NativeWind actually comes in for the utility class aspect of having that be your interface with CSS in the React Native ecosystem. Yeah.
Yeah. It adds the utility classes. Yeah.
Yeah. Before there was not that sort of separation of concerns, right? And this also made it a little bit weird when you're wanting to use NativeWind in a third-party package that you're developing, right?
Yeah.
But now that there is this separation, that should also make those projects simpler because you don't have to like pull everything in. You can just kind of take what you need in from React Native CSS and run with that. Which seems like what the T3 Turbo folks are doing then.
Yeah, it seems exactly kind of what I haven't actually spoken to it, but they're doing kind of what we actually intended to do, which is great. So, yeah. Oh, we'll have to chat with them about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I have more on the RN new NativeWind UI side, but do you wanna cover anything else with respect to version 5?
So yeah, there's a couple of things here. So we're still going to be working on version 5 a lot. There's still a lot more features that we want to kind of do. One of the things that I kind of want to address is kind of the performance of NativeWind. This is always a question that comes up. There's other libraries that are being released which are doing Tailwind CSS. So UniWind has been announced. This is like performance is always one of the things that we wanted to address, and we are now actually looking into it. I will put it that way. So I've been experimenting with a much more performant version of NativeWind now that we kind of have the features locked down. and it looks like it will be doable. Like our architecture, actually, the way we've built NativeWind transitions really well into being like a C++ turbo module or something like that. So
A lot of people's
we'll
eyes
probably,
just went up.
yeah, we probably won't have anything to show for a while. But over time, we might expose like an experimental flag to allow people to opt into using a C++ runtime or something similar like that. So I just wanted to let people know that
We're cooking.
we're cooking. We're now addressing
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
And it's more just now I understand how a shadow DOM mostly works. But man, that is a scary topic with no
Yeah.
information.
um,
I've, I've just been reading source code at night, been in my bed with my
ironically,
laptop,
I'm
reading
wearing
source
my
code.
software mansion shirt right now. Uh, part of that discussion that we were having the other day. This seems like a very terrifying topic, an area to jump into. But yeah, version 5 is gonna
Yeah,
make
so
that
it's still
quite a
be
bit
working
easier.
on version 5, and we will still probably offer the JS runtime because that allows us to work with Expo Go very easily. But for people who are using custom dev clients and want something a bit more, yeah, we're going to start working on this, even if it is a slightly stripped down version at the start. But I'm fairly confident that we can get all the features in. Um, yeah.
Cool. That's awesome.
The other
All
thing,
very
like,
exciting, like things like big exciting thing now, and then amazing, exciting stuff to look forward to.
looked forward to, yeah. And maybe
Yeah.
in some more short term news, there's been talk in React Native again about color spaces and colors. Um, so for people who are unaware, there's a color. What is red is pretty vague of a term. It actually depends on what color space you're in. So we're mostly used to RGB, which is called the sRGB color space, which is what React Native uses by default. But your phones actually support another color space called P3, which is a more modern way of representing colors, which make them more vibrant. Basically, like you have these amazing screens that can show millions of colors or billions of colors, but RGB can only represent up to a certain subset of those available colors. You know, like P3 allows you to show even more colors than RGB does. Um, and there are some config plugins now emerging for Expo to enable P3 colors on your devices. And Expo are also working on better platform color support. So at the moment, there's the platform color, which is good for if you know how platform colors work on your devices. But they have a PR open for a thing called device color, which is more designed for like Material U and better support for like those known kind of color
Like
spaces.
established red to error, like the iOS red or
Yeah.
the Android red. Yeah.
So using that in combination with P3 makes your app visibly more vibrant. Like it makes your colors just actually like a bit brighter, a bit better, makes your gradients and backgrounds look a lot better. So I'm going to keep a close eye on how those things are kind of developing. The thing is, we already work in the P3 color space, like Tailwind works in P3. I have to actually convert the P3 colors backwards to sRGB. So when
Knowing
P3
full
actually
well that not everything is supported.
notice everything is supported, yeah. So
Yeah.
if this does kind of take foot and there is some more work in the P3 color space, we'll simply, yeah, just turn off that conversion and continue with the P3 colors, which is hopefully that's the direction they're going to go in. There's also some more news in React Native around filters and new styling properties. iOS is finally going to get a proper blur functionality just in time for NativeWind release. So we do support the blur classes, and if this PR goes through, this means that they will now work on iOS. But at the moment, they're currently only Android only. So if you're not using liquid glass and you just want some nice translucent elements, they should be hopefully coming quite soon to your devices.
That's actually an interesting segue into like some of the native Wind UI stuff, because I've been getting a lot of questions with respect to, are we going to support liquid glass? And it's not a simple yes or no answer there, because I think the shortest answer is that we're ultimately going to rely on something like Expo more so to be implementing things like that. Obviously, Expo Router handles the navigation elements of that, and we're not going to touch that. We're going to sort of inherit that. And then what ends up rendering just depends on which operating system your user happens to be running. Um, then, as far as the components themselves, there isn't quite a separation yet for Expo. I mean, Expo UI seems to be in a like relatively early phase of development, right? And I assume that's going to get much more sophisticated over time. But there isn't this like separation of props for like Android versus iOS stuff. And so it's very explicitly like this is the iOS, this is the Android thing. You have to like think about this separately. Whereas for native Wind UI, we do make that separation. We make sure that you can actually specify things. We do the mapping to like the relevant properties. So unfortunately, it's actually just not possible yet to use Expo UI as our components. Um, we would like to see that happen over time, and in the interest of encouraging contributions, as I've mentioned in the past, we're going to be open sourcing the components, and introducing something else called blocks, which exists between our components and our templates. And the blocks are more of like collections of the core components. And so over time, what we hope to see is that the component section of native Wind UI becomes more of almost like links to our recommended components to use, Expo UI or otherwise. And the blocks become like our assembly of those into cohesive parts, cards, or even simpler components, anything short of a template. And that's where a lot of the content, if you will, of native Wind UI will begin to expand. If you want to support liquid glass, there's a string of different libraries to make that happen. So part of it will sort of be on you and or organizations like Expo to provide that for you. Um, yeah, it's
Yeah.
just a bit too much to take on for an individual project. It's like a lot of assumptions to make on behalf of the user.
In terms of the styling, though, for liquid glass, I have been looking into it, and I think there is something we can do to offer like, some help with classes for it. The problem is that there's two new competing libraries for liquid glass in React Native. There's the Expo version and there's the Core Stack version, and they both have slightly different APIs and props, which is a little bit frustrating. So there's basically three main classes or main props of liquid glass. There's the tint to say what color the glass is. Both of them provide a tint color prop, so that's easy to map. Then there's the glass effect. So is this like a regular style or is this a I forgot the clear style is the other. Both of these libraries use different props for that. So Expo uses glass style effect, while Core Stack just use effect, I believe. And then the last prop is the how interactive it is, like whether you can actually click through the glass or if it encompasses all the clicks. And Expo uses is interactive, and Core Stack I think just use interactive as a prop. Yeah, is it interactive? So if we were to map these, we would have to pick one. We would probably lean towards Expo just because it is the framework that we support, but we might provide then instructions on how to map that back to the Core Stack version
We
of
could,
it.
I mean, could we not just open it up to the call stack team to basically maintain that mapping rather than having to worry about it ourselves?
Um, maybe if they're willing to have, I guess, like props that just map across.
Yeah. I mean, if they're willing to, then why not?
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, we can ask them if we can get them all to align their props, but
mhm.
yeah, we'll see how it
That
goes.
would be
Sometimes people
ideal.
have weird opinions about this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I guess yeah, we'll see. I think aligning with Expo out the gate makes the most sense, and at the same time not being closed off to if Callstack wants to put in the effort to either change and align the API, which would be the best option, uh, or just maintain some kind of like mapping or something. Uh,
yeah.
yeah.
One thing is, Expo have reached out and said that when we are, if we do decide to do bindings for Expo UI and we counter inconsistency in their UI, they're happy to help map props to things that are happy for us. So
Oh,
Expo
cool.
have already expressed that they're happy to rearrange their props if it doesn't make sense for styling libraries
Hmm.
with their components. So that's good to know. That yeah, and
Great.
it'd probably be something like glass regular or like tint red 500 or something like that, just the class names to support these. But I think that's kind of as far as we can go in the styling aspect, not the components, but just styling to support the glass there.
Okay. Yeah, the only other thing from the no, completely unrelated to liquid glass, the only other thing from the NativeWind UI side is that we've recently put forward or merged a PR that pretty drastically simplifies the code. Um, our goal is to get to very much kind of similar to the Tailwind Plus slash Tailwind UI experience, where it's just like everything is specified in a single utility class line versus all of this crazy configuration stuff. So we're gradually moving towards that. There's this new version. Unfortunately, kind of jumped the gun a little bit, and now the RN new blank template configuration does. It's not that it's a very simple thing to fix. If you start it and it errors out and you go in and change it. But I will be spending the rest of today between getting the version 5 native Win docs configured properly and testing to make sure that works, and also getting the native Wind UI RN new templates to like work properly with this recent change that I just talked about. So, um, yeah, all of this should be available for folks to start testing out of the box, presumably like later today into tomorrow. Yeah, that's my
Cool.
update.
That's don't think I have any
Um,
other updates. Just need to kind of get out these docs and for people to start trying to use things.
yeah, I think that that's it. If there are no other questions, we can call it there. And yeah, like I said, we'll publish the docs in a bit. Um, and they're going to be like a living docs kind of situation where obviously like we'll be improving them over time. If you see improvements you'd like to make, please, open up a PR or whatever. And I really liked one last thing. I really like what Expo has done with their documentation, where they have the edit button and the like LLM like copy stuff. So I actually am just going to ask Nikita to put that up into our docs as well, and the edit button will just link directly to the page right where you can edit the stuff. So I just want to make it easier for folks to be able to help us out, bolster the community to help bridge the gap here for version 5 docs. So, all right. Thanks for joining, everybody. And we'll see you next week.
All right. I'll catch you guys. Thanks for tuning in.